right, welcome back. This is episode, well, it's part 2. I don't remember which episode. I think it's 7. I have less than 10 episodes, and I can't keep track of them. That's really pathetic. But welcome back. Welcome back to the podcast. We're here again to continue the E3 coverage, so to speak. And I'm joined once again by my co-host, Dan.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
And since we're talking about Nintendo, we are once again joined by my other co-host, I guess, which is Mike.
Hello.
Yeah, we're back.
Here to talk about Nintendo.
Yeah, we're all back. You said it would never happen, but we're back. So, thanks for listening. And this is the Nintendo episode because it's kind of, I guess this became the format. Maybe it's a little less justified this year because in years past, when E3 was in full capacity, Nintendo would basically roll out their announcements over a multi-day period, where they have the direct presentation, and then there's 3 days of Treehouse streaming, which you could argue was perhaps a little too much content. I liked getting the content, the way they did it, but after this year, where we only had 1 day's worth of streaming, I don't know about you, but I didn't really feel like there was much of a downside to just only having 1 day of streaming.
Yeah, they still showed a lot of stuff, and, all of the Treehouse stuff we saw at the end was still pretty meaty, so...
Yeah, I didn't... Okay. So I guess
I think
I'm not
it's
alone.
for some reason, and I don't think they did it this year, but in some years, there would be they would just do a random drop of oh shit, here's a big new release or whatever that we didn't talk about in the Direct.
Yeah, I mean, there's 1 or 2 games that weren't in the Direct, but this isn't in the past, because I think probably the best example that I can remember was Metroid Samus Returns, which wasn't announced in the presentation, but immediately once the Treehouse stream started, they'd put it out there. And I think the reasoning for that was because the presentation was focused on console games, and that was a 3DS game. So they were trying to they didn't want to put too many 3DS things in there, if any. So that was probably their justification. This year, they had a slightly similar focus because their presentation going into this, when they put out that disclaimer, they said, we're focused on software, and it's mostly software coming out this year. And when I saw that, I felt good because I did not want... I mean, I don't want to get too sidetracked because we don't want to really discuss something that wasn't here and may not exist. But I think a lot of people expected this to be the unveiling of the Nintendo Switch Pro. Which, spoilers if you haven't watched it, at this point in time at least, there's no proof it exists. And I'm not saying that it won't exist, perhaps, at some point. I think it is a logical thing to guess, but there's been so much speculation for it, and I was relieved that we didn't have it, because the rest of E3 up to this point was not great, and I did not want Nintendo's presentation to be bogged down with 20 plus minutes of talking about a console that I at least don't really want to buy. So I don't know. Yeah, how do you guys feel about that?
I mean, I think the idea is fine. I would be down for a Switch Pro just because there are just some games that just don't run well. I'd say Age of Calamity being one of the big offenders of just...
I would agree.
It's not just 18 frames at points.
It's not the worst performing Switch game that I've bought, but it's not where it probably should be. I think it's inevitable.
No Deadly Premonition 2.
No, it is no Deadly Premonition 2. But
oh boy.
Yeah, but 2 hours of playtime, bought it the week it came out. But
money well
spent. No, it was not money well spent. Look, maybe
it'll be money well spent if the Switch Pro ever exists, I guess.
When I hit 500 subscribers, I'll contemplate beating Deadly Premonition 2 and making a video about it. Hint, hint.
Unless the commenters demand, if not even shout to the heavens for a Deadly Premonition 2.
Oh, no. Okay, maybe. But, yeah, I mean, I'm glad we didn't have to see this. I know it will probably happen in the future, but I'm focused on the software. That's what I'd rather be buying, and I think that's what most people would rather be buying. So we're going to get into the software. Well, I guess I'll ask first, what was your overall impression of this conference? Because I do think it was one of the best things at E3 this year.
The only thing.
So I didn't really watch most of the other conferences, so it's hard to compare, but I liked this Direct. It was great.
Yeah. Really, like, just good amount of, like, hits here and there for, like, hardcore fans and, like, even, like, people who aren't as, like, hardcore. Just, like, a lot of just good stuff showing off.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty well focused. It flew by. I didn't think the pacing was bad for the most part. I know some people complained about the Direct we had a couple months ago because they felt like it was a little bloated and it was all over the place. But this was very focused, and so I was happy with that, and I came away feeling pretty good. I mean, look, the bar was low. I'll admit that. The bar was low because E3 was not doing well. So I'm like, all Nintendo has to do is show me 2 games that I want to buy, and I'll be like, they did a good job. So we got that at least. So the first game we're going to talk about was actually not announced during this. It was announced earlier at the Ubisoft event, but we saved it for this, and that would be Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Yeah, so what do you think about this right off the bat? Because I know, Mike, you and I, we've both played the first Rabbids game, and we both enjoyed it.
Yeah, I love the first game so much. That's, like, one of the best Mario spin-offs in recent memory, like, without a doubt. I 100% it. Like, I got all the DLC. So I was hoping they would do a sequel, but it was always one of those things where, maybe they will, maybe they won't. So I was so happy to see that they're doing it, and it looks amazing, even though we didn't see much.
I mean, they're also including your favorite Mario character this time around.
Yeah, she does have a Rabbid version.
Rabbid Rosalina, baby.
One of the best things ever.
I'm
so happy.
Yeah, I think that's what everyone really wants. We all want to see our favorite characters become horrible monster people. That's what we want deep down. Inside.
I hate the baby characters, like, because they annoy me. But the Rabbids, I don't know, they're great. I love the Rabbid characters.
At least
I don't like the Rabbids.
Yeah, I mean, at least the Rabbids are meant to be kind of a parody of sorts. So it's like, they're weird and gross looking. They're like little gremlin people. So, it's fine. I mean, it's less egregious than other Mario clone, like Pink, Gold, Peach. Like,
God, yeah. Don't even get me started. So yeah, they have personality.
Yeah, what were you saying, Dan?
I'd say, like, as far as, like, the Rabbids themselves, like, I could really, like, just kind of care less about the regular Rabbids, but there's something about, like, when you, like, mix Rabbids with, like, other, like, series, like Mario, then it's like, they kind of become a little bit more charming, I feel.
Yeah.
Than the base ones.
I think it's better than just, like, they're not even really characters, they're just kind of, like, things. So I like it when they do it this way. The way they've done it is good. I mean, I'm hoping that the Rabbids stuff, they still handle it with the same degree of, like, weirdness and creativity that they did last time. I don't know. They might go a little too far in certain directions, based on some of the stuff that we've seen from the trailer. But it was a pretty quick trailer, and it's a little hard to say one way or the other. The thing that took me back initially, and I think I got clarification on this, because they do show parts where you can fight people in real time. And my first thought was, oh, wait, are they just getting rid of the grid and the strategy? And the answer is they are getting rid of the grid, but it is still going to be turn-based. So it's still going to be the tactical strategy RPG that we're expecting, but I think they said that, like, when you ambush foes, or because you can get the drop on people, because now the fights, there are random encounters on the map and things like that where you can act freely for a little bit or initially. So they're trying to introduce some real-time elements that weren't there before, which could work out.
So,
I think it works. I think Mario is simplistic enough that you could pull it off. Like, XCOM couldn't do this. But with Mario being a platformer, you could just run around and, like, kick stuff at people. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
Yeah, what did you say?
Oh, sorry. I was going to ask, because I didn't play the first one.
Sure.
But I from what I saw in, like, some of the 3 houses and, like, some reviews here and there, it seemed like how encounters were done in the first one, where like you would just kind of walk into an arena and that would be the like big encounter in a way.
Yeah, you had like a world map or a level map, and you just kind of went through it, and then once you walked past a gate, you would be in a fight. So here, I think they will probably still have fights that are in that style, but they also have random encounters on the world map where there's an enemy of some kind, and if you make contact, it teleports you to an arena. So the arena is not literally part of the level, and you have the fight, which I like.
Oh, that's good.
That's what I do like, that we have that element. I mean, hey, some people argue that it wasn't an RPG. Maybe this makes it a little more of one, which is fine. So I'm happy with that, and I'm hoping that they just push things in more creative directions as far as the combat. I did like the combat, and so I'm eager to see what other characters we get, or how certain characters we had have kind of evolved. And I'm just kind of generally looking forward to it, because the first game was probably a lot better than anybody expected.
Understatement of the decade right there. Like,
everyone was so doom and gloom on that.
To be so good.
I was cautiously optimistic. Like, I was like, this is a weird crossover, but like, it doesn't look terrible or anything. It's just a really weird idea, but Nintendo went with it, and I mean, they've demonstrated that they know what they're doing. So I'm happy to see a sequel, because I think some people thought that. I mean, I don't think there's any proof that the game didn't do well. So it's just good to see that they're continuing to do stuff like this. And, it's a risk. And people always say Nintendo needs to take risks. I think that it was a risk, and I think it paid off. So that's good.
Yeah.
So we'll move along. So this is technically the first thing that they announced during the show. And I'm sure for a lot of people, this was literally the only thing that they saw. They watched this and then turned the rest off, because they only care about one thing, and it's disgusting. And that's Smash Brothers. So Smash Ultimate opened. I'm going to say, at least this trailer for me, probably the quickest that I have ever been able to predict, like, what franchise or what character it was going to be. I mean, they got me on the character, because I thought it was going to be Heihachi, but literally like 1 second into this trailer, I was like, whoa, okay, I think I know what's happening here. And so they punked me with the character, but I was really happy with this, because Namco helps make these games. And I've been saying for a while, I'm like, they should really put somebody from Tekken in, or at least have another Namco rep, because of all the work that they do. So
it was really weird.
Yeah, I'm happy.
It wasn't there before, in a way.
And they'd considered Heihachi for the past game, for 4. They were thinking about that, and Sakurai said at the time, putting a Tekken character would have been too complicated, so they went with Pac-Man. But we live in a new era when it comes to complicated Smash characters, so Tekken is not off the table, and I'm so excited to have another Shoto character in Smash.
Dirty mouth, you son of a bitch.
What? He's a guy, and he doesn't wear shoes or shirt, and he's from a fighting game, so
yeah, right.
He's a Shoto.
I mean, it wasn't JRPG McSwordman or Scrimly Bimbo, so now we have to figure out a different name to call it something, because we didn't like it.
Yeah, everybody from a fighting game is a Shoto, right? Or Shoto?
Yeah, right.
Whatever.
I'll say
Shoto, right?
No. I'll say, stupid Shoto memes aside, I am extremely happy that we got a Tekken rep. I feel like I didn't expect a Tekken rep. I honestly thought it would have been like a different, like, they would have gone like maybe like either Doom guy or somebody like that. But honestly, I'm happy for it, just because I play fighting games and I love the Tekken series, and B, like, Kazuya just it just makes me think of, oh, what could they do with this character? Like, is this character gonna like have a weird moveset where he like has multiple buttons or stuff like that? Like, I'm really interested to see how they're gonna adapt like the Tekken style into the game.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I mean, I'm more of a Soul Calibur guy, but there's obviously a lot of crossover there where I would wonder, like, how's this going to work? He's going to obviously have a lot of moves and things he can do. And, I mean, since he's from Tekken, he should play differently from characters like Ryu or Terry as far as, you know, the fighting game sensibilities that they're trying to adapt. Because Tekken certainly does not play like Street Fighter.
No, it doesn't. I'm curious if he's gonna have like certain things, because there's a thing in Tekken called Wall Rising, where basically if your character gets like either ducks or if they get knocked to the ground and they're in like the getting up animation, if you hit a button, then there is like a completely different set of moves you can do while your character is rising. So I'm curious if like if you'll have like certain things like diagonal moves that are completely unique to him, or like just odd little things that you can do in Tekken but haven't been done in Smash.
Yeah, I think it just depends on, because, you know, they have to take complex characters and be able to simplify them to get them in Smash. So it just depends on how intuitive it is and whether or not, because it's something you don't expect from other characters, whether or not it might kind of cause problems for him or just make him too strong. I mean, I'm not really concerned about balance with Kazuya because I mean, I don't really think any of the like auto turning or like, you know, fighting game characters, they're not like that good, you know?
No.
So
I don't get why people don't like them.
Yeah, people don't like them, but they're not really like that strong because they're super technical. They do take a lot of skill to master, and that's kind of why they're not that great. But they're fun to play, and they're just cool. So I'm really happy to have Tekken, and I'm happy to watch the announcement that we're going to get later to figure out more about how he plays, because I really like the overviews that we get from Sakurai, and he's back in his studio. I mean, it's probably just a storage unit next to his house, but if he wants to call it a studio, he can call it that. He's entitled. You know, I hope, you know, I can't believe we've only got one character left. Like, that really...
Oh, boy.
Wow. A lot of time has passed.
It'll finally be over.
Yeah.
No more speculation, guys.
No more speculation. Sorry. Sakurai can rest, and we can just think about something else, I guess.
Yeah.
Kid Icarus 2?
Hopefully. Yeah, that might not happen.
I said he can rest.
Yeah.
So
he'll never rest.
No. So anyway, that was how they opened the show. I mean, you can say it was like kind of an obvious opener, but they wanted to get it out of the way, which is fair.
Get smashed first.
Yeah. Anyway, we moved on from that to our next game, which I think caught a lot of people off guard. I know there were some possibly fake leaks about a Donkey Kong game being announced, and when they showed the bananas, I think people freaked out, but I saw those coins, so I knew that's not Donkey Kong. It's Super Monkey Ball. Super Monkey Ball's back, sort of, except it was back like a year ago when they did the Banana Blitz thing, but I guess they're just remastering like 1 and 2 and Deluxe, I think, is what's in this collection.
That's what it seems like.
I believe so.
And isn't Deluxe just 1 and 2 in the first place? So
yes.
I don't know why don't they just call it Super Monkey Ball Deluxe HD?
I think it's Deluxe had like specific levels, maybe, or something like that.
I don't know. I was a little confused because I think they said it was like 1, 2, and Deluxe, all as Banana Mania, but it's not. It is. I don't know why it's called Banana Mania, because it is a collection. So I feel like the title should make that clear, because Banana Mania could just be the name of a new game. But Monkey Ball's been dead for a while, and it's fun. Monkey Ball was fun, 20 years ago. I thought it was fun.
I mean, it's always cool to check out like things that Nagoshi used to do. Like,
yeah,
because before Yakuza, Noguchi worked on some really good franchises that.
Yeah, this is technically a Ryoga Gotoku
really
Studio game, by the way. Like, their logo, I think, is on it. So
really cool.
Yeah, like they actually are remastering these games that they used to do before they were an actual studio. So that's kind of neat. And yeah,
I honestly don't know how like they pump these things out because like every year, like nearly every year, Yakuza game they put up Virtual Fighter 5 and now this. Like, dang.
Yeah, I think
really
with Virtua Fighter, I think they were just like transferring the game to the new engine, which obviously takes a lot of effort. But like the game itself was already technically made, so. But yeah, no, they're definitely a big element of Sega, or at least a growing element. So it's kind of interesting. And now that maybe they'll bring back Monkey Ball for real. I don't know. This could just be a test for that, as was the Banana Blitz HD. So maybe something to keep your eye on if you like these games.
I mean, hey, maybe Ryoga Gotoku Studio could, maybe they could work on another franchise that they worked on before when they were Amusement Vision. Like, I don't know, like a futuristic racing.
I was gonna say this existing means there is a 1%, 0.1% chance that we could get an F-Zero GX remaster, which I would be really happy with, but I don't know.
Yeah, that doesn't seem too likely.
Yeah.
Based on this, is way more willing to do stuff like this than Nintendo.
It's the same engine though. So if they already updated the new engine for Switch compatibility, like I don't know, I'm just saying. I'm not saying a new F-Zero. I'm just saying maybe a remaster. That's all.
It's a dark and lonely road being an F-Zero fan.
Yeah, it is.
I could really use something like some kind of party that could make me feel better.
Oh,
some kind of Mario Party.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the next one. I mean, maybe for a lot of people, this was a who cares game, but like,
not for me.
I think it would have been more who cares if it was Super Mario Party 2. To be honest, the fact that it isn't, and it's like some weird. I mean, whatever they're doing with it, it's kind of cute. I mean, I think it makes sense. They sort of tried to do this in the past because there was a 3DS game that was just like the best 100 games from the franchise, but that didn't have boards. This has boards.
A board, but
okay.
Quote a board.
Oh. And it's boards from the first 3 games. So they're just covering the N64 era, which I guess makes sense.
How many?
It's a little unfortunate.
Only 5.
Oh no, 5 boards from 3 N64 games.
Yeah. So they're picking presumably the best boards, and I hope they are the best boards, because like if Mystery Land is there, I'm gonna riot.
Oh God! Well, Spaceland and Woody Woods are both amazing.
Spaceland,
yeah, they showed that one. That took me back because that's the classic Mario Party era. And I guess updating it is cool. And I do like that it's not like direct updates because all 3 of the games have been standardized to kind of play like Super. And then the mini games are from all of the 3. So I do like
the whole
that.
franchise, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I like what they're doing with this. And I think it's fair because I've heard a lot of criticism of saying, why isn't this just DLC for Super? And I do agree. That would have made more sense. But it only would have made more sense like as someone who bought the game. From Nintendo's standpoint, it doesn't, because I can guarantee you, like, these games sell super well physically. So they're not going to do that because, like, Super Mario Party was really successful. I think a lot of people assume it was like a bust. I've seen people say that online, and I don't understand it. If you look at the numbers, it sold really well. Yeah. It's got Mario in the title. You have to like try to make a Mario game that doesn't sell pretty well.
Yeah, like Mario Party is always going to sell well just based on its brand, but they used to make them every year anyway, so the fact that they actually did take a year off between Super and this one is a little unconventional.
I think that might be why people assumed that it was a flop because they didn't immediately shove out Super 2.
Yeah.
But they're doing this for some reason, so.
I mean, I did like.
You go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say I did like how they kind of used like the original Super Mario Party kind of as a testing ground for their online functionality.
Yeah, like they patched in online fairly recently to Super. I noticed that.
Yeah.
So this game's going to launch with that. So that's also a good thing, because I think that was probably the biggest. That was a pretty fair complaint with Super, was that you couldn't really play it online.
Yeah, so having this from right off the bat is definitely going to be a much easier sell.
Yeah, it's a more appealing purchase, I would think.
Top 100 was kind of a not very good game because of its lack of just stuff to do besides the mini games, and being stuck on the 3DS kind of just doomed it. So it's nice to have like these classic collection of mini games, but on a console that, you know, we can play more easily actually with boards. So, you know, it's not the most ambitious thing, and I got to be cautious because they always cut corners with Mario Party, but I'm excited.
Do you think we talk about this with the RPGs? Do you think they're going to do a thing where like they comb through anything that looked too weird on the boards and make it look more standardized?
I don't want to go into that right now.
I don't think that there's going to be nearly as much of that to worry about, just because generally Mario Party games just reuse the same character models constantly anyways. So I don't really think there is much of that for them to worry about.
No,
personally.
I'll give you one example though. The golden pipe is the item in Super Mario Party that you use to immediately warp to the star. So that is the item that we see in this new one, Mario Party Superstars. In the original 3 and 64 games, it was a magic lamp.
Yeah.
And when you use the lamp, a genie toad comes out, but he looks weird and different and doesn't look like a toad. So he's probably not allowed anymore. So we're going with the golden pipe, but that's the whole thing you want to get into.
Golden pipe is easier to animate. You don't have to make a genie model. You don't have to make music for when the genie shows up. You don't have to make a sequence. So I think it's also laziness, maybe.
I mean, you also literally just reuse the green pipe animation. Just
exactly
use the gold pipe.
Exactly. So that's
and I did
part
see
of it.
Woody, the trees.
Oh yeah,
they're OCs, and they were still on the board in the Woody Woods board. So
yeah, I don't expect them to like really do that, but I just thought there will probably be some cleaning up just generally because they're redesigning all the boards anyway. So not surprised.
Shy Guy has his pirate hat, but not his pirate cloak in Shy Guy.
That's disgusting.
So, I mean, he does have the hat, though, so it's like, okay, credit where credit's due. They didn't completely butcher him.
We only have enough in the budget to make a hat. We can't make a cloak for some reason.
If there's anything that'll change, like on the boards at least, I would say like Mario Party's 3 kind of odd, like kind of cardboard weird style, like art style is probably going to get changed a little bit.
Yeah,
also,
that's true.
Yeah, and also in the Mario Party 2 maps, we're probably not going to get those costume changes.
They don't have those because they I was watching some of the footage and like they clearly don't have the costumes, but that makes sense because like that gimmick isn't a thing in this version of the game. So they're
but it was so cool.
Sure, but for this version of the game, it's just here's the maps, we've streamlined them, and then we've made them uniform. So I understand it. But you know, if you miss Black Hole Bowser or whatever his name was,
yeah. There was a clever replacement with the Womps chasing you in the car, though. I do like what they did instead, but yes, I did miss Black Hole Bowser. But it's understandable.
So,
as long as we got bumper balls and the Bowser balloon game.
Yes.
All these brutal games. I saw a lot of them. They showed these games as a kid and as an adult are brutal. So those will be back, and I'll just get mad again. So. But I'm not mad, and the reason I'm not mad,
you're not dreading it.
I'm not dreading it because this was the moment that this direct actually got good, really good, but for me at least, because so they've got Takahashi, I think, standing there, and he's like, "Hey, remember Metroid Prime 4? We announced it almost 4 years ago to the day, and we still got nothing." So, sorry about that. The greatest reverse, because they just had a completely unrelated Metroid game to show us that is coming out this year. And when they said the title, I was like, dude, we're in it. We're really in it here. That to me was crazy. I couldn't believe that. I mean, it's what I was hoping would happen the whole time, because Metroid Dread is still being developed by the same people who helped do Samus Returns. And, you know, I like that game, but I always feel like the problem was that it just came out too late. If it had come out like 2-3 years earlier, then there would have at least been a new game. Like Metroid Dread probably would have been on the 3DS. You know, they would have just done that as the next project. But here we are, and it's still happening. And I mean, it's just really good. And I feel really goddamn old because it's been almost 20 years since Fusion. And that's always been this has always been kind of the problem, is that game came out. They did the ending was a little like cliffhangery, and they just never followed it up. And it's amazing that I guess Dread was canceled like twice, and now we're here. It's crazy that they can finally come through with a version that works. Obviously, not every company can pull that off, but I was really satisfied with everything that they've shown of this game so far.
This was like the one thing that like this E3 like needed at this point, because it was like there was like no big jaw dropper. Like oh my goodness, really? Like this was like the jaw dropper of the whole of the entirety of this E3.
Yeah, like even an outsider who doesn't play 2D Metroid, it was like I was shocked to see them say like Metroid 5, and then I thought, oh, maybe I should have seen that coming. But then when they put the title Metroid Dread, I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I never in a million years.
That was one of those things where you're like, yes, we know you've been reading on the internet since like 2005 that this game existed at one point, and it's real finally. So I'm really hopeful. Yeah, that was one of those things, and I'm really hopeful about it, because this is definitely an example of Metroid. You know, it needs to evolve and needs to change, and the 2D structure of it is still a great. There's so many things you can do with it. I mean, Metroidvania games have definitely become popular, you know, with the indie scene. And, and there was no reason for Metroid to disappear for as long as it did, really. So it's great to see that Metroid can still be a relevant thing and can still kind of, you know, the melee stuff is going a little further. Metroid finally learned how to crawl. I'm really proud of her. They've redone the climbing and some other stuff. So I think that there's still a lot of potential here to really be like a new era for the way a Metroid game can feel. And so far, I really like all the visuals of it. And I think also it's really cool to see that some of the stuff in Fusion that people found really memorable is actually being explored, like mechanically now. Because a lot of people just remember the SAX and it would chase you around, but like it wasn't really in the game that much. It was very, very scripted set pieces. But when you're a little kid, they don't feel that way. This feels a bit more natural because they just have these areas on the map where it's like you got to go in there and the robot's going to be there and you can't fight it. And the fact that it can insta-kill you is kind of a big deal for Metroid.
Oh.
Yeah. Like when they grab you, you have like a couple frames to counter, but if you don't, you just die. So that's definitely like, that's the thing. This is a more, you know, survival horror-ish thing than Fusion. Honestly, I think Fusion is like weirdly remembered as being a horror game. It isn't really, other than some moments or some concepts from it, but I don't think the game itself is a horror game personally. And I'm not saying Dread is either, but I think Dread is at least going to try to do more with these elements. And that's just really great to see, because I think a sequel to Fusion needed to do that, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. It gets me excited. Like, I think like now is the best time. Like, if you're say like a Nintendo ambassador or something like that, best time to check out Metroid Prime Fusion. Wow,
just Metroid Fusion.
Just Metroid Fusion. Sorry, I'm very much
Metroid
very
Prime
much
Dread
casual.
coming soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I know people were disappointed that there was no Metroid Prime 4. It's been like a year and a half or maybe 2 years since it was rebooted under Retro. So I was hoping that we would get something, but they completely offset that by saying, psych, we have actual new Metroid game coming soon. So that's the best way to take bad news and twist it around into great news. And so that to me that's my personal highlight of the show is Metroid Dread. It could have been the closer, but I understand why it couldn't have been. It's fair. So it was great to see that. And I was just really happy. I'm still happy, honestly.
Get it together.
Oh, I'll try. Because then they went over to WarioWare, which, WarioWare, weren't we just talking about WarioWare the other day? We were just like, I hope they bring that back, because they did Gold recently, right?
There was a recent, survey Nintendo put out asking, oh, would you buy a WarioWare if, it was this much, or, this much? They were asking about, pricing for a WarioWare game.
Yeah.
So that was, a big, hint of, no, this is coming,
Yeah, this one looks interesting. Very different from I don't know how much of the micro game footage that you saw.
Yeah, I watched the Treehouse thing too, so it looks cool. I would have expected more of a smooth moves game like on the Wii, which used the Joy-Con motion controls, but this still looks fun, and I love WarioWare, so I'm super hyped.
Oh yeah, I played the Game Boy one recently on the 3DS, and really fun. And I'm glad that they're incorporating the characters now into the micro games themselves.
Yeah. Actually play the characters. You got to do that on the party game for the GameCube, but you rarely actually play as the characters, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting way of doing micro games because it changes the way that they're designed because your controls can be completely different. So it's an interesting idea, and I do like that it can have co-op, sort of. So I think it could definitely be a pretty fun game to play. And yeah, WarioWare is just one of those things that's fun to check out every once in a while. I mean, especially any 9-volt games are always, because every time that there's a new game, they always try to put new stuff in there. And we saw...
You want to have tea time with Claude? Well, now you can.
Yeah, Fire Emblem Tea Time is going to be one of the mini games, and so that's just hilarious to me. It's just how
that's going to be good.
We're really getting in there. We're really trying to stay fresh and current with these retro games that aren't actually retro, but it doesn't matter.
Breath of the Wild was on the box art as well. We haven't seen that.
Oh,
excited.
Great. Yeah. That's the stuff that I like. I don't know if this game will have any more story, because I know Gold had a really gripping storyline, sort of. Yeah,
Gold's presentation was way better than they needed to be, because they had full voice acting. There was way bigger cutscenes with the story segments, and it looks like that's what they're doing here. But they were skipping the story in the presentation because they didn't want to spoil it. But it seems like we are getting that level of awesome cutscenes and deep WarioWare character lore that I'm all for.
I really want just to hear more Charles Martinet actually getting to do stuff, instead of just voice clips. I'm so down to hear more Wario from him.
Wario has way more voiced lines of dialogue than Mario at this point.
That's true.
He definitely does. So
yeah. Even if you count those really old PC games that Martinet did get to voice Mario in, I think Wario has surpassed him now.
Yeah, that's probably true. And then the commercials and things. So it is fun. I do like that aspect of it. Speaking of fun, I don't know. I have no segue for this. This was really this was one of those games that was on my list as far as we better get something. I need something. All right. I'm hungry. I'm hungry for this. That would be Shin Megami Tensei 5, which I've become increasingly more excited as I've actually played more real Shin Megami Tensei games. So I'm very excited for this one at this point.
Persona 4, nice.
No.
Yeah.
No. Friendship ended with Persona. Shin Megami Tensei is my new best friend, okay? This is the reality of the situation.
All Persona fans eventually make this, I don't know, pilgrimage to becoming SMT fans.
It's you either like make the climb and you do graduate to SMT, or you fall into even more like degenerate anime garbage. Like that's what happens, I think. So I made the climb and I succeeded, and so I'm very excited for this. And the trailer was pretty good. The footage that they showed, I approved of. I mean, I'm still playing through SMT3 now because it was re-released recently. But I was a big fan of 4, so I'm always looking for things that are kind of like 4 in there as well. And I'm just really excited for this because I've definitely gotten pretty accustomed to these games, and they have they've got an aura around them. And it's one of those series where it's like, oh, how many times can you do the same concept? Well, as long as they keep coming up with weird creative stuff, I think it'll be good. I think the only aspect of what I saw in the footage, which was kind of limited, but the only thing I saw that was a little like, about is probably the main character's design. It's a little out there. I mean, look, the Demi-Fiend from 3 also looks kind of dumb, but this is like Metaton from Undertale if he was in a JRPG, kind of. Is that? Do you think that's accurate?
Oh, I mean,
that's what it reminds me of. And then Jetstream Sam joins forces with him, and he becomes that for some reason. Like, it's a weird look, but I don't know.
Some people like that look. Maybe a little too much.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know how this works. You get your fan art within 24 hours, but like, Jesus Christ, people. Let
them have. They're having fun. Let them have their fun. At
least wait until you've played the game.
No.
You can make your more authentic, disgusting artwork. I don't know. I'm eager to see how this goes, and I love the combat system in these games. Like, it's a lot more interesting than the Persona combat for me. And it's these games, I think, just are like, they kind of respect your time better. They are much more to the point. They know why you're here, and so I'm totally down for this. And I would definitely recommend people check it out. It's not one of those series where you need to know the other games to play them. But yeah, I was excited we got a release date. I think that was my big thing, because this game was also announced like a long time ago. This was one of the first Switch games announced. Like, it was at that reveal event.
Yeah, it's been, 4 or 5 years now?
4.
4, yeah.
Well, more than that.
I think this is the only game from that show that has not come out. So
yeah,
it's been a long road, but we're here, and it's coming out this year, hopefully. So I think it looks really on point. I was really hoping for a release date, and we got it. And maybe next time we'll actually get to see some footage that's actually in English, because the Treehouse build was in Japanese for whatever reason. I guess it's an Atlas thing, so like Nintendo doesn't necessarily have, optimal preview builds. But it was funny watching them play it and watching them have those moments of suffering that you expect from these games, like negotiating with a demon and just, God damn it, I gave him all my money and he ran away. Mm-hmm. That's what you want.
Yeah.
At least they are going to release this like worldwide, like day one.
That's good. That's a huge deal. Like, even if you're not into SMT but you're into Atlas, that's a huge deal that they're able to do this, because they are one of those companies that's still behind the curve as far as localization. And for them to finally be able to do this is just going to be really good for their games everywhere. Because it's like, can you really wait 6 to 9 months, especially with the internet being the way that it is now? They really screwed that one up with Persona 5, where like it just kept getting delayed even after, well after the Japanese version was out. It just kept getting delayed because like they didn't send them any of the script content until the game was done. So they didn't have any way to estimate how long it would take, and so the English date that they gave was not going to work, and they had to push it back.
Mean, the amount of time Strikers took to get here was like,
Strikers. I mean, I know COVID was a factor with Strikers, but the fact that they just like didn't tell anybody what was going on until it was just about to drop was really bizarre. I mean, I think something similar happened with Yakuza 7, but they like actually gave updates on it or like showed it off, whereas Strikers they just didn't acknowledge. So I'm hoping that we're behind that, and now Sega and Atlus, if you can get this stuff out worldwide, because they're doing the same thing with Lost Judgment. Lost Judgment is going to be the first Yakuza game to come out worldwide simultaneously. So that's great. And that's a big deal for Sega, because they're getting bigger and bigger with some of these properties, and that's going to really help them in the long run. So that makes me really happy. Speaking of things that make me really happy, we're going to move on to, this was also a complete left field thing, but I swear I'm not making this up. The night before this direct, I was like staring at the fridge. And I was thinking, I thought about Advance Wars randomly, and I was like, I wonder what it would look like if it was on the Switch.
Well, there you go.
And then we have, Advance Wars 1+2. So it's the first 2 games. Most of my Advance Wars experience comes from playing the DS game, not the GBA ones. So I've not played a lot of those first 2, but I love the DS one. So I'm really looking forward to this one. And Dan, you were saying that Way Forward is involved in some capacity.
Yeah, I believe they're the ones who are developing the remake itself.
That's a big deal.
Oh yeah, it is. I believe that I think Way Forward has worked with Nintendo in some capacity before, but this is like one of the larger things that they've ever like really worked with them on.
I know they've done games on Nintendo systems, but I don't think they've ever like developed a game for Nintendo. I mean, there were those 3DS games and stuff they were doing, but like they've never been given a Nintendo brand, I think, right?
Yeah.
I
think it works out because, Advance Wars, it's not the biggest Nintendo brand. In fact, it's like probably one of the smallest brands that they've had. So it's like, it's not the hugest risk to give it to them, but it is great that like, hey, we're finally getting a new Advance Wars to the like, I don't know, 3 people in every Fire Emblem announcement.
Yeah,
who come playing.
Yeah,
so
I'm happy.
This is their moment.
I'm
happy. And I'm happy.
Yeah, I'm actually.
Am
really
I gonna
excited
play it?
for this.
I might, depending. Like, I might check it out.
I want to get it, having never played them, but kind of always wanting to get into them. Even as a kind of older school Fire Emblem guy who started on the GameCube, I never got into Advance Wars, so now I can.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's worth checking out for fans of strategy. The way that they do things in these games is pretty cool.
I do remember as a kid, like, just, I think it was like on the DS, like playing Advanced Wars and just making like custom maps and just playing them with my brother.
Yeah, the DS game is insane. Like there's so much, there's like probably too much content in the DS game. So I don't expect them to necessarily remake that, but 1 and 2,
nice,
1 and 2 is a great place to start. I guess the only thing that I've seen where I'm not 100% on, I mean, the art is a little different. I don't think it looks bad. I think it looks good, but like the character portraits don't have the same vibe as the older ones did. where, I mean, I think what they're trying to do is make everything look kind of like a toy, because the map screen obviously is like a simplified representation. But I always felt like that only applied to the map screen, and now it kind of applies to everything. So I don't think that's a bad thing, but it is different, and yeah, maybe it might just take a little bit of getting used to, but I definitely don't think it looks bad. I think it's fitting. It kind of looks like an old 80s cartoon, except it doesn't look like shit.
Yeah. It definitely is like that kind of like way forward like art style that like I know very well from the Dante games. Like,
oh, you can tell.
So like if you're used to that, yeah, no, you can really tell it's them. So like it looks good, and I can't wait to see more of it.
Yeah, hopefully this is the return of the series. It's not just going to be a high-quality remake. Like, we'll actually get more of these, maybe, but I don't know who would develop those. Because, like, Way Forward, I mean, this is just a remake, so, like, you don't really need game designers to do that. So that would be the question, like, well, who's going to design the remake?
It's going to come down to, like, hey, I mean, vote with your wallet, you know?
Indeed. So perhaps I will do that when this releases this year. Almost everything that they showed released this year, which is also, I think, another reason why this show was good, because overwhelmingly there was so much 2022 stuff. And yeah, so we know there was a pandemic, but the fact that Nintendo could put all this stuff out this year, by comparison, is worth pointing out.
Yeah.
So we
like they don't even need to be big games. Like,
no.
These like the Advance War remake. It's probably a very small like game, like budget wise, probably not the biggest game, but like the fact that they're putting out something is nice.
Yeah, this is definitely turning out to be one of a strong year. I think a lot of people were frustrated with last year. I mean, except obviously, it's like they didn't want to release things. They didn't have to. They made so much money off Animal Crossing at the start of 2020 that they were like, we can delay everything. We're fine. But we're seeing the fruits of those labors now, finally. So I'm happy with that. Now we're getting into a game that... So this is a funny thing. No More Heroes was not part of the Direct, and was technically not part of the stream, but it was uploaded afterwards. Like, immediately after the stream ended, they uploaded this video of No More Heroes 3 footage, and I was confused. I was like, maybe I just missed that. I didn't miss it, because it wasn't part of the stream. That might have been due to the violence or the language, but also you can you can tell in the clip, like, there's a part where the guy playing dies twice, and they fast forward it. So, like, I was thinking... maybe they wanted to do this, but it didn't make sense. Then I started thinking, wait a minute. There weren't really any breaks in the stream when I was watching. Was it even live? Did they lie about it being live? Because they cut away and then cut back so fast to do new games that maybe I started like having conspiracy theories that the Treehouse live stream was recorded in advance. I mean, it definitely was live to a certain degree, because there were like mistakes. There would be freaky things that happen where, like, I remember at one point during some game they accidentally put up a picture of the Metroid Dread Collector's Edition for a couple of seconds. So it definitely was live to a certain degree, but I was wondering, I'm like, maybe they actually pre-recorded this. Like, these were all segments that they filmed, and they're just putting them together. Tinfoil hat, I don't think it matters. But No More Heroes got me thinking about it. So, anyway, let's talk about how No More Heroes 3 looked. And by looked, I mean...
Played?
Played, because it didn't look good. But it played good, I think.
Oh, man. So, like... I have this up right now.
Oh, yeah?
Like, I have the video up, and man, like, that resolution, oh my goodness.
Yeah, we talked about that
so
before.
Low.
It's terrible, isn't it?
And around, I'd say, the 6-minute mark, there's a point where they're like, he's loaded into the open world portion of the game, and the game is, like, just chugging. Like, it just can't handle itself. he tries to walk, they pause, and then they just cut to Travis's room. Like,
yeah, so the footage when they were fighting looked to be at a high frame rate, if I remember correctly. So hopefully the fights will function. But it seems like that's the only thing that functions because the resolution is horrendous. The pixels, like the shadows look awful. And there's a lot of textures that look incredibly low res. Like Travis's apartment, like the posters on the wall are just like smudges. It's like you can't even tell. Is that supposed to be an anime girl? It just looks like a vague shape. Like what the hell? Come on. I know I've played a lot of Grasshopper games, so I've kind of come to expect this, but like there are people who say that it's bad on purpose, and it just makes me want to like scream. I'm just like, come on.
I mean, I'll say this is the one game I feel will like 100% benefit if there is a Switch Pro. Like if you're gonna play this game, play it on the Switch Pro. Like, don't even try.
Well, as long as the combat has good frame rate, it should be okay. Because
combat looks fine.
The combat looks fine. I think that the art, direction looks good. The dialogue and like the weird stuff was there, and it looked on point. But I just don't want to play another Deadly Premonition 2. And I'm scared this is going to be Deadly Premonition 2, where it's like basically non-functional.
If the overworld is like laggy, it's like very laggy, it'll be like whatever. Like as long as the combat sequences play well, because that was the problem in No More Heroes 1, where like you would do the open world stuff and like the open world barely functioned in 1. So like
we're not saying that
it's fine.
Yeah, like No More Heroes.
They cut it out in 2.
Yeah, I mean, Suda51 makes interesting games. I'm not convinced he makes good games, but he makes interesting games. And I like No More Heroes because it's interesting. Yeah. So I can certainly tolerate issues.
That plays like that. There are no other game that plays like his games, which is like always the best part about playing them.
Yeah, I can tolerate that to a certain degree, but I felt a little at my limit looking at some of this footage because it really just looked like, come on,
I'll say the outside battle they show looks kind of weak. Like graphics wise, it looks kind of but like the boss battle looks genuinely like really fun.
And No More Heroes is all about the boss battles in my opinion. So if we can get those figured out, then we're good.
Yeah.
Mike,
well,
you never really played No More Heroes, Mike.
Yeah. All you guys.
Well, hey, the whole game collection is on Switch, so you can start whenever you want. But
that and the 2D Metroid and Shin Megami Tensei, I'll do all of it.
Yeah, play everything.
I'd say Mike, if you're like genuinely interested, check out No More Heroes 1. It's only like $20 on the eShop. Like it's fun game.
Yeah, they look interesting.
Especially back when No More Heroes 1 was new. It was just like, what is this?
That would have been kind of crazy, I guess, back then even.
Yeah, but I got it when it was new, because I didn't really play that much of Killer 7, so I was like, oh, he's got a new game that doesn't look like a bizarre, weird game. It looks kind of normal. And I think I saw like the trailer, which was like the intro video, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. There's a guy who has a laser beam from his dick. And so I picked it up. And what a weird experience. Hopefully
their trips.
Yeah, hopefully they can live up to themselves. Whatever the point of these games is, hopefully this game can live up to that.
And if you like when you get into like these games, like if you played every No More Heroes game and even every Suda game, play Travis Strikes Again, and that game just is like the biggest, like it just throws stuff at you during the visual novel segments, like the craziest like twists.
There's a
and then you just go back to playing the game, and it's just this really easy like twin stick slice them up. I don't know what to call the game, but God, it's such an odd game, but it's so interesting.
Suda is a very strange man, and he's had a very strange career, but it is nice to see that bigger companies are still giving him a chance, Yeah.
Punk's not dead, as long as Suda's around.
I suppose so. speaking of not dead things, this was the actual ender to the show. The Legend of Zelda Game & Watch.
Oh, yes.
No, I'm kidding. Nobody cares about
that. No. Hold on. No, I want to get back to that.
Okay.
I will say, kudos on them for improving the original idea, where it's like a Game & Watch game, and you get 3 games, including Link's Awakening, probably one of the better Zelda games. That makes me actually want to pick this thing up. I think that's really cool.
Well, I'm a sheep for Nintendo stuff like that, so of course I'm getting it. But yeah, they're having 3 games, one of which is Link's Awakening, at least makes it a little more worth it than the Mario one.
Oh yeah, because how many times have you bought Super Mario Bros. 1?
Yes,
Jesus.
Way more than I can count, and The Lost Levels is not even really a good game, so
Yeah, no.
This one's got. Well, I'm not the biggest Zelda 2 fan, I guess, either, but it has the original and Link's Awakening. So
what I didn't get.
Yeah, if it ain't. Sorry.
What I'm saying.
I was gonna say.
Yeah. What are you gonna say?
If it included Link to the Past.
No, that's too high tech for a Game & Watch.
I know, but that would have been so great.
What I think confused me was they were showing, you got a playable watch, you got a playable timer, and I'm just like, well, who's going to be playing it when you set a timer? You're going to be doing something else, right? Because isn't that why you set timers? I don't know.
Yeah, they did that on the Mario one, and the DSi even had a Mario clock like that. I guess it wasn't a timer, but
yeah, I don't mess with these things. I'm not. I just play Game & Watch and Smash. I don't actually play Game & Watch, so it's not my area of expertise.
Missed opportunity though to give us the actual Game & Watch Zelda game that does exist.
Oh yeah. They just reskinned Vermin, right? It's not.
Yeah. That's not a.
I wonder why they did that.
I think it's because it had 2 screens, the Zelda one, and they're lazy and didn't want to make a device with 2
Yeah,
screens.
You didn't want to, because you
Nintendo would never make a device with 2 screens.
No, but what are you gonna do? Play Zelda 1 on 2 screens at the same time?
You can play Link. You can play both of them. You can play Zelda 1 and 2 at once with 2 screens, but only one controller.
Same inputs, oof.
That would be amazing. Not really. I don't know. Why are we talking about this still?
The last thing I want to bring up is, to be fair, Link's Awakening, the original black and white version, has never been re-released before. Because the deluxe
version, that's true.
It's on the 3DS Virtual Console, so that's a neat little collector's thing, even if just for that purpose. So, yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I guess that is true. I was thinking about that. It'd be hard to play that one. So,
And now that we've talked about all the Zelda news, I think we will come to a close. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and
Dan, you
hit
forgot
the like button.
Skyward Sword. How could you?
Yeah, Skyward.
Oh, damn it!
Skyward Sword Remastered. That's coming out pretty soon. I'm excited for that. I like Skyward Sword.
It still exists.
Yeah,
yep.
I'm excited. I'm probably not going to get it at launch, but I'll pick it up at some point. Weird way to end the show.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. You know what? There was something else. I think they talked about the Hyrule Warriors DLC.
Yeah, they did.
Which I might wait until we know what's in Wave 2 to get that, because I'm not totally sure about Wave 1, but I like that they're adding new enemies and stuff. That's kind of an interesting thing to add. And playing as a Guardian does sound fun, so, maybe that'll be fun. And then, they ended the show. The show just stopped very abruptly.
Yeah.
Eiji Onuma was standing on the stage, and then the light went out and you heard a gunshot. No, that's not what you heard. You heard the Breath of the Wild sequel, because there's still no name for this game. I'll just say that. That was my personal disappointment. I really was hoping for a title. You could definitely see a shot in the trailer where the title was meant to be. I think they said in some interview afterwards that they have not done a title yet because the title that they've chosen relates to the story and they don't want to really explain certain story details, which is fine, I suppose, if that's it. It just does feel a little weird to not have a title for this game at this point. But as far as trailers go, I think this got the job done because people probably wanted to see gameplay, and it was quick cut gameplay, but it was something. I'm not at the point in my life where I want to just rewatch trailers 8 times and like try to pick out things. So I just watch them once and I'm like, yeah, it looked pretty cool. I'll wait until they actually explain what's going on. But
yeah,
it looked cool to me. I mean, Link's got a weird arm now, and I don't really know how that plays into things, but
hours he can go through walls or the whole ground. That looks pretty neat.
Yeah, I think the big thing about this game is how are they going to balance, because obviously we have some kind of sky world, or at least I'm assuming it's in the sky. There's a land above, but then presumably the world from the first game will still be there. But if what I'm assuming is correct, then like chunks of the ground have been thrown up into the sky. So that's probably going to have a pretty big impact depending on what sections of the ground, were put up there. That's going to definitely change the world map, so to speak.
I will say I hope there's like maybe like underground or like I do hope there's a bit more to like, because a lot of the map, like it seemed like a lot of it was reuse.
Well, you really haven't seen enough to make that call yet, but
no, and I assume they're hiding like the new stuff probably, which that's fair. You don't want to just show your hand when you still have a year out.
I mean, reusing the map is definitely something that's going to be new for Zelda. So, like, to me, it's not. I don't look at it as like, oh, this is just a bad idea, because it's not something they've really done before. And I would want to see, okay, how is the existing map, going to be changed? Because that could be a good enough addition to the game, depending on how they handle it, depending on how much new stuff they add, because there's very likely going to be new enemies and things and ways to interact. They show new Sheikah iPad powers, right? So I think that there's a lot to look forward to, and maybe they want to play it safe. It's coming 2022, hopefully.
It's coming, yeah.
And so there's plenty of time for them to give us new information and new lore on what they're going to do with the game.
The trailer was good, but a lot of the questions I still kind of have, and things I'm hoping to see the sequel address weren't really in the trailer. So it's kind of like, wait and see. Like, are we getting actual dungeons? Are we getting, more enemy varieties? I guess they did show a little more enemy variety, but
it really depends. Like,
older and
there's a lot of possibilities for what they could do, because they're in a weird spot where they could try to just add more things that were in old 3D Zelda games, but they could also just try pushing in new directions even further than they did before. And I'd be happy with either, So I think we don't really have the mission statement yet for what this game's going to be, other than be a sequel to Breath of the Wild. So as for what that could be, because Breath of the Wild was a complete reinvention of the series. So that's the thing. Don't throw away the reinvention just to go back to the old ways. Give us more. Evolve. That's what I want. And I think we're going to get that. But I think, they played it a little safe with this trailer. But I still thought, it's a solid way to close the show, because it is what people want. And my only real criticism is no title yet. Which, I don't know. I can't think of what is so special about the title that it's going to spoil the game. But I don't know. If that's the excuse they got. That's the excuse they got.
Either that or they just don't have a title yet.
That I would have accepted that as a legit excuse. Like, they could have just said, well, we have several concepts for titles, and we haven't decided yet because blah, blah, blah. Other people do that. I remember there was an interview, I don't think it was that long before God of War 4 came out. I could be incorrect about this, but I remember seeing an interview, and the director, actually it wasn't an interview, I think it was on Twitter, but the director of God of War, new God of War, for the record, not technically the fourth one, but you know what I mean, where somebody was asking him, like, what's the kid's name? What's that kid's name? And he's like, oh, well, we haven't decided yet. And I was like, there have been, like, multiple trailers for this game, and this is one of your main characters, and you still haven't decided his name? Like, don't you have to record, like, haven't you already recorded a lot of voice stuff? So, game design is weird. And, maybe this title is just in the ether, and we don't know what it's going to be called. I still like the Breath of the Wild idea.
If only.
I definitely hope it isn't actually called Breath of the Wild 2. I highly doubt that that's going to happen.
It wouldn't be the worst title in the world.
It would break the naming conventions of the whole series if they did that. Like, it just wouldn't make it, like Ocarina of Time 2 was not Majora's Mask, So I'd rather we not do that.
Breath of something else, Link to the Past, Link Between Worlds.
Oh yeah, I think it'll probably have like Wild or Breath in the title, but I don't care. Like just give me a title. Like, have I ever? I can't remember. I can't think of any Zelda titles that I was just like, this is a bad title.
Yeah, no, not really.
So
he is pretty good with titles compared to other Nintendo series.
Compared to many other Japanese series in general, I think the titles are they're fine. They get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
So, there were 2 games that they did not show that I feel like people probably expected to see that we might as well talk about briefly.
Or so sad. No.
The first of those.
So I would like to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
It has currently been about 1,288 days as of this recording since there has been any Bayonetta 3 news.
Any Bayonetta 3 news at all?
I would say gameplay or whatever.
Well, since the trailer, probably. That might be correct. I mean, yeah, that's on my list, because really there's only 2. Metroid Prime 4, I was hoping we would see it, but they turned that around, so it's fine. Bayonetta 3 has been missing in action since late 2017 when it was first announced. Definitely one of those games that they announced like 2 days after it was greenlit. I have to believe that. And
sure.
I mean, Platinum has been in like a weird state where they've got a lot of projects going on, but they're also trying to become more independent. So like they're doing all this different stuff, and this game is in the shuffle somewhere, but we've just barely seen it. And I think that Platinum is like on the cusp of like maybe next year they're just gonna like release a bunch of games all at once, or like all within the span of a year. Because I just feel like they have so many different projects that they're working on right now.
Yeah, they've had a few things come out here and there. Like there was like a mobile game that came out that they worked on.
It's not like the old days where they would just fart out like 3 games a year for like 3 years or whatever. Like you could argue Platinum overextended themselves back in the day, because I don't really know how many of those things were actually successful, but either way, Bayonetta 3 is definitely indicative of Platinum really slowing things down, which is not always bad. It's not inherently bad, but it's been a long time, and they've really just kept this one low. We don't know anything. They announced like Kamiya's next game that he's going to direct, and I think a lot of people are still like, wait, isn't he directing Bayonetta 3? I don't think we know who's directing Bayonetta 3. The guy who directed 2 left Platinum a couple of years ago, so we don't really know what the hell's going on. But they tell us it's going fine behind the scenes. Trust us. I just don't want this to become another Scalebound.
Oh no, that'd be awful if like Bayonetta 3 turned into that. Like, I don't know. I think there might be some shakeups going on in Platinum, but I hope that like they keep reminding us that development's going fine. Stop asking, but it's like it's just I don't know. Like even eventually after it took so long, like Nomura put out a singular screenshot of like Final Fantasy VII Remake when we didn't hear about that for a while. So it's like
Yeah.
Just anything.
Yeah, we don't even have a
indicative.
screenshot. That's true.
Yeah. Show me, like, I don't know, an if-else statement. Anything.
Show me, like, a shot of, like, you can kind of see the back of Bayonetta's leg. And we can just endlessly speculate about the new costume. like just something. But we don't have anything at all. It is kind of weird because they announced it in such a cavalier way. And we just got nothing. To be fair, this is what happened with Metroid Prime 4. The difference is we know Metroid Prime 4 was rebooted. We don't know what happened with Bayo 3.
Yeah. Metroid Prime. So we know what the deal is with Metroid Prime 4, why it's been so long. 3 is just worrying.
Yeah. So the only other game I wanted to bring up, which I understand why it wasn't there, but I think a lot of people expected it to be there, which is Splatoon 3, because that was just announced. I think the reason they didn't show it was because the focus of this was 2021, and that is not going to come out this year. So I think they were happy with announcing that, because usually when things get announced in the spring, I always feel like that's kind of the lead-in, and then at E3 they're going to really talk about it. And so I was a little surprised to not see this, but I think, they decided that it was much more effective to focus on this year and to put that on the back burner because they can talk about that whenever they want to, really. And I'm sure there will be people to watch.
Yeah, mid-time, like maybe like after a few of these games have come out.
Yeah, the next Direct will definitely mention it. So
maybe
it will be a matter.
Next Direct is in like October, maybe. Who knows? We got no idea. So that was really about it. I mean, there weren't really any other games that I was thinking about that were either at the show or were not at the show, unless there's anything that pops into your minds.
One day we might get Pikmin 4 if it still exists.
Okay, there's no real evidence that exists, though.
I will continue to forget it exists.
Pikmin 4 came out like 3 years ago. Miyamoto said, hey, it's coming out, and then it came out, and he wasn't wrong, when he said it was close to completion.
Came out on the 3DS, and then it came out again on the Switch, but I don't think either of those were Pikmin 4, but it's not really clear from Miyamoto's interview, so...
Yeah, good old Hello Pikmin.
Hello Pikmin.
Yeah, let's just call it Hello Pikmin.
As someone who actually liked Hey Pikmin, in all fairness...
Sure.
I still want Pikmin 4.
Yeah, I mean,
but
it's a weird thing.
The luck is all we get.
I do have to say, while you mention that, I was trying so hard to get the Star Fox video out as quickly as I could. Like, I needed to get it out before this Direct, because I was like, there's a 1% chance that they could port it to Switch, and they're going to announce it at E3. So I had to get I chose to get the video out because I didn't want to, re-record anything or do that stupid thing where you, splice into the video, hey guys, it's me from the future. Well, all the stuff I just said doesn't mean anything because they did announce it. I didn't want to do that. So I got it out. And when they showed the Fatal Frame Wii U game getting ported, I was like, oh man, 1% chance just got bumped up to 2% chance that Star Fox, but there was no other Wii U port shenanigans going on, which I think was a good thing because I don't really need to see that at E3. So that kind of caught me off guard for that moment. I was very frightened. But whatever, there's always next year for that.
If there is an E3 next year.
Well, Nintendo, more than any other company, Nintendo has really demonstrated that they don't need to rely on trade shows because they do their own thing.
They carried this whole conference on their back.
And that's not just us. You can see that online, social media wise. I saw people were getting their nooses ready after Capcom. The people were just like, this is not good. So the mood was definitely lightened by Nintendo. And that's the thing. And we said it about E3, where if you don't have anything to show, we don't need E3. And over the last year, there was so much demand for a Nintendo Direct. But I always felt the same way. I'm like, they can show things when they're ready to show things. You don't want to watch a bad Direct. You want to watch a Direct that has real substance to it. So that's the thing. I want to see content when it's there to be presented to us, when they really have something. These kinds of streams, these kinds of directs, I think there's people who constantly want it like it's food. But I don't think these things benefit from being done at a regularly scheduled basis. I think that it's fine. Just do it when you want to do it, and it'll be fine. That's what I prefer, personally. Yeah. Because if you're doing these things in a regularly scheduled way, you might as well just announce them normally. Just put up the YouTube trailer, put it out on Twitter, and that's it. Don't bother doing a song and dance when you're going to do this every 3 to 4 months. Because I don't want that, personally.
Yeah. I like Nintendo's method of doing about 3 big directs a year. Because it takes away the magic if they start doing them more frequently.
Yeah.
There definitely was a time when they were doing them more frequently. And I think people just want to harken back to that time. But
that was that was Wii U time. And I don't think anybody wants to go back to that.
Well, yeah, that's why they're porting everything to the Switch, I guess. So either way, yeah, I think this show, because there were a few games that I was kind of expecting to be there that weren't there, you could make the case that Nintendo didn't deliver everything that maybe they could have, but especially when you count games coming out of nowhere surprising you, this was a really good Direct. And I do think out of all of the E3 branded programming that we watched, this was the best. And I can definitely come away from this seeing at least 3 games, 4 games that I'm going to buy. Maybe even 5. So games I'm going to try to get at launch.
But they didn't have a Left 4 Dead style co-op shooter variation. So
you're right.
Nintendo. Yep. Sorry, guys.
Okay, so I guess this was bad. They didn't show a stalker type game either.
Yeah, no gray horror-esque shooter.
I didn't hear anybody speaking Russian. What is this?
Not a single Russian.
Yeah, well, maybe that's something they can work on for next time. You can't win them all.
There's no Mother 3.
So you're right.
No Mother 3 even. Come on.
Yeah, I remember a fortune cookie told me Mother 3 was going to be at E3 this year. And why would that lie? I heard it on the radio. The radio spoke to me and said, "This is the year Mother 3 gets announced," and we just don't have it.
My uncle works at Nintendo, and he told me it was going to happen. What are you calling my uncle a liar? Nintendo, what the hell?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
How dare you disrespect people's families that way? That's horrible.
It's too much.
Well,
I can't bear to think ever being a Nintendo fan ever again. Great Direct. Had a good time.
Solid, very solid Direct.
Yep.
Saved the format possibly, just compared to everything else at E3. Ooh.
Yep. Never change Nintendo. Never change. You're doing good.
Don't change. Everyone else keeps sucking. No, of course that's not what I really want, but this is just one of those things. It's kind of embarrassing as far as E3s go, but it ended strong if you don't count the Namco snafu where people thought there was a conference and there wasn't. So at least somebody did a good job. But that's all we really have to talk about. So thank you for watching. See you next year, unless people in the comments actually want this to be a more regularly scheduled thing. After I put the first episode up, it got more views. And now that people are actually watching the channel, it's actually getting views. So I'm like, oh wow, that's kind of cute. So
people are actually listening to it?
If you actually listen to this, let us know, because if there's a reason to do another podcast in the future that isn't E3, it's something that could happen. No promises. Obviously, I prefer to focus on the reviews and things like that. But, these are fun to do. So I'm not ruling it out. So just keep that in mind. Otherwise, see you all around. Bye-bye.
See you next E3.
Bye, everyone.